What if I told you there was a first-person shooter, but instead of using guns, your weapon is magic? This is my dream game that I've set out to make, merging the world of competitive FPS with fantasy, but there's just one problem. I've never really made a game before, but over the last 9 months, I've been learning how putting a survival game version prototype together piece by piece, and after implementing advanced movement, basic controls, basic enemies, and some temporary generic UI, it was time to add the most important part, the magic. And it's more than just about adding spells. It's about implementing a good combat system as a whole. It's about adding player choice, player agency, and a unique flow state inducing experience. But most importantly, making you actually feel like a sickle mode battle mage while playing. In order to achieve this, I needed to come up with the different mage identities and the UI for you to actually access them. So now we have the elements of Solar Storm, which breaks down into solar plasmic abilities, lightning abilities, and trapping abilities. The element of fire, which breaks down into wildfire abilities, ash abilities, and explosion abilities. The element of luminescence, which breaks down into teleport abilities, laser beams of light, and destructive clone abilities. The element of darkness, which includes shadow abilities, ice abilities, and siphoning abilities. The wind tempest element, which includes wind blade / armament abilities. I don't know how to say that. Armament? Force push and pull abilities, and tornado magic. And finally, the earth element, which includes entombing and collapsing abilities, shattering crystal fragment abilities, and quaking abilities, possibly switching the quaking for vine or like wild growth or something. I don't know. We're not there yet. Each of the elements will have some sort of mechanic built within it to add more interactive gameplay. For example, when using Solar Storm abilities, it causes the target to become charged, stacking up to 3 times, each stack causing the enemy to get slowed more and more, eventually stunning them. Which, as a side note, this mechanic is probably going to get reworked, as I don't want there to be too much stunning. I possibly may make it so that once you hit 3 stacks, the target turns into a lightning rod, causing you to expel a chain lightning to it and its surrounding targets, or maybe it will tether you to the enemy, electrifying them, dealing damage over time. I don't know, something like that. Again, we're not there yet. Another example is the fire tree, where when you use a fire spell on them, it causes them to burn over 10 seconds, and any fire spell you cast on a burning target causes them to flare up, duplicating this fire spell casted, instantly dealing an additional 50% of its damage. That one is actually implemented already. Now, the goal of these different elements is to allow you to mix and match any 6 spells of your choosing and grant you the freedom to truly make a unique playstyle of your own. But this also is an FPS game, so relying solely on magic just doesn't quite sit right with me. So the plan is to add a wide choice of weapons to choose from as well. For example, a staff, a hand cannon, or a mage blade would be some options, but each weapon will also have talent trees of their own correlating with the different elements, and each element of the weapon will operate differently. For example, if you get a lightning staff, it will shoot lightning bolts and operate like a charged up type of weapon, sort of like the charge rifle in Apex, but not AIDS, while a fire staff would act more like a semi-auto marksman rifle, and a lightning hand cannon would act like a medium fire rate full auto SMG, and a fire hand cannon would act more like a Magnum or a Wingman from Apex, or your standard hand cannon from Destiny. As for the mage blade, it would act like a melee weapon, but you would use the corresponding magic to extend its reach, making it more like a mid-range weapon. These aren't exactly set in stone, but this is kind of the general idea I'm going for. But there is one thing that is important with the weapons, which is that they will have an expel mechanic, causing them to have different interactions with those status effects we talked about earlier, like burning, for example. Haven't quite figured out how this is going to work exactly, but my idea is to have this implemented so that way you're encouraged to not just spam spells, but also to use your weapons frequently. Your main source of damage should be your weapons, in an extended fight at least. Now, I really haven't quite figured out how this is going to work exactly, but the idea would be to mix and match different elements to get different reactions out of the status effects, so you don't have to use a fire staff when you're using fire abilities. You can have some type of interaction when using a lightning staff with ice abilities, etc., etc. You get the idea. I really want to try avoid locking people into something. I want to try and make it as open as possible and let you have the choice on how you want to play. Now, all this is subject to change, and there's still a long ways to go, but none of it would have been possible if I didn't implement this one specific system in the game. And if you want to see how I did that exactly, check out this video here. Okay, love you, bye.